Thank you, Chairman Grassley. After reviewing Kash Patel's record and meeting with him, questioning him at this hearing, I'm even more convinced that he has neither the experience, the judgment, nor the temperament to lead the FBI. A little history. 50 years ago, Frank Church led an effort to investigate the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They came up with a sweeping reform and conclusion. Congress passed a law limiting the FBI director to a single term of 10 years, subjecting the appointment to the advice and consent of the Senate. These actions were taken specifically to ensure that FBI director remains apolitical and is shielded from outside influence, and that no FBI director amasses the kind of power that J. Edgar Hoover, the founder of the FBI, exercised when he had wiretaps on Martin Luther King Jr. and other civil rights leaders and branded them as communist. For the last half century, this law has served its purpose. At Mr. Patel's hearing, one of my Republican colleagues suggested that consideration of an FBI director is a, quote, shirts and skins game, quote unquote. That is clearly incorrect if you look at the record. I've served on this committee for more than 20 years during the consideration of 4 FBI director nominations, Bob Mueller twice, Comey, and Wray before this one. Each of these directors was a Republican, and I voted for all of them. Some game of shirts and skins. What it boils down to is this agency should be above politics. What we've just heard from the chairman is an invitation for a political free-for-all if Kash Patel is chosen as the head of this FBI. I will not be surprised when my Republican colleagues again claim that the Democrats have weaponized the FBI, as we've already heard, despite the fact for the last 50 years, every single Senate-confirmed head of the FBI has been a Republican. Even former Chris Wray, former director, has been a frequent target of outrage. My Republican colleagues conveniently never mention that Director Wray is a lifelong Republican, nominated to the position by Republican President Donald Trump, and confirmed to the position, get this, with the unanimous support of Senate Republicans. Unanimous. As a reminder, President Biden kept Director Wray, a Republican appointed by President Trump, in that position. But because he did not do his bidding, President Trump forced Wray out and nominated Mr. Patel, an inexperienced loyalist to the Trump administration. It turns out that Mr. Patel is already seeking retribution on behalf of President Trump, despite his status as a private citizen. As I revealed earlier this week, multiple whistleblowers have disclosed to my staff highly credible information indicating that Mr. Patel, a civilian, is personally directing the ongoing purge of senior law enforcement officials at the FBI. The ramifications of these terminations are dangerous, and they go beyond Mr. Patel's fitness for office. This purge has greatly weakened the FBI's ability to protect the country from national security threats and made America less safe. This week I invited the head of the organization that represents FBI agents to come to my office and talk to me about the morale at the FBI. 2 women came and visited with me. Both of them had served as FBI agents for long periods of time, one for 22 years and another for 17 years, and they both were proud to tell me their fathers were FBI agents before them. They said to me they have never seen this kind of thing happen in the transition of one president to another when it comes to the FBI. There is only one person, nominally and officially, who is political at the FBI, the director. All the others are professional and career employees. One political person. But now there's been requests from this administration, for example, to produce the names of all of the agents and staff at the FBI who worked on the January 6th insurrection mob that assaulted the Capitol. Think about that for a second. 38,000 employees at the FBI. How many do you think worked on that case? 5,000 names. 5,000 names they want to disclose. It's understandable that these FBI agents are worried. They realize that the people who were engaged in that mob action on the Capitol, many of them were dangerous people, despite the full pardon given to them by Donald Trump. Let me tell you about one of them, just to give you an example. And if you question whether the FBI agents should be reluctant to have their identities and the identities of their families made public, his name was Guy Reffitt. He was the first defendant to stand trial on charges related to January 6. Sentenced to 87 months in prison for bringing a firearm into the Capitol that day. Reffitt's 19-year-old son, Jackson, turned him into law enforcement after the attack. Jackson also indicated that Reffitt had threatened to shoot him personally and his sister Peyton if they reported him to authorities. After receiving a pardon from President Trump, Reffitt attended Kash Patel's Senate Judiciary Committee meeting in this room. He posted on social media the following, and I quote, "Present and in support of Kash Patel, as the leftist commies continue to spew lies, misinformation and disinformation, my man, clean house Kash." We are inviting a political disaster if we put Kash Patel into this job. Can you imagine having worked for the FBI all your life, taking an oath that you're ready to give your life in defense of this country, be involved in all of the assignments that you were assigned to, and then comes a new president, Donald Trump, and wants to see the names of whether you were one of the people who was involved in the January 6th investigation, the largest criminal investigation in the history of the United States. I think this is outrageous. If we have respect for these agents, show it. To invite this political warfare that's been described already this morning is to the detriment of the men and women who are risking their lives for us in this agency. We have a list here of 6 executive assistant directors who have been purged already from the FBI. I asked the FBI agents, has this ever happened before with a new president? No, never happened before. These are top FBI officials who oversaw the FBI's work combating international and domestic terrorism, cybercrime, drug trafficking, and violent crime. In the FBI's long history, this has never happened before. Keep in mind, one political appointee, the director, all others career. The leaders who've been forced out are all career FBI officials who've worked their way up in the ranks and have decades of experience. And that's only the beginning. Acting Director, Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove, apparently acting at Mr. Patel's direction, has asked for a list of FBI personnel who worked on any matters relating to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. He is the transition leader, or was a transition leader for the Trump administration. Meanwhile, 1,600, including one of the individuals I just described to you, January 6 defendants who were given blanket pardon by Trump are on the loose. Think about that. A man who brought the gun into the Capitol, 87-month sentence, blanket pardon by Donald Trump, and now they wanted full disclosure of the names of the FBI agents who were involved in this case. It is outrageous that these sworn FBI agents, who were simply doing the jobs assigned to them, now fear for their livelihoods and their safety and the safety of their families. It is unacceptable for a nominee with no role in government to personally direct the unjustified, potentially illegal firing of dedicated, nonpartisan FBI officials. And if these allegations are true, Mr. Patel has come dangerously close to perjury before this Senate Judiciary Committee. Why do I say that? During the hearing, when he was asked about possible terminations of the FBI by Senator Booker, Mr. Patel said, "I don't know what's going on right now over there." Mr. Patel seems to be unable to wait for Senate confirmation to carry out his plan of retribution on behalf of President Trump. This is a private citizen, Patel, with no role in government, allegedly directing baseless firings of career public servants. and then misleading this committee about his actions. Given the serious nature of these allegations, I've asked the DOJ Inspector General to investigate. I urge my Republican colleagues to take these allegations seriously. I know you want to be loyal to your president. I know you want to vote for all of his nominations. I know none of you want to call from Elon Musk reminding you what he might do to somebody who votes the wrong way. But this really gets down to the heart of the future of an agency that is critical to the security of this nation. This is not the only time Mr. Patel misled the committee under oath. At his hearing, he implausibly told me he could not recall the name Stu Peters, an anti-Semitic Holocaust denier. Patel, under oath, said, "I can't recall his name." This is simply not credible, considering that Mr. Patel appeared on Mr. Peters' podcast 8 times. Couldn't pick the name out of it. Stu Peters? No, I don't think I know that man. 8 times. And Mr. Peters has since revealed that he and Mr. Patel directly communicate via their personal cell phones, quote, constantly, close quote. Stu Peters? Say the name again? Don't recognize it. Mr. Patel also claimed he didn't have anything to do with the recording of the so-called January 6th prison choir, those who were convicted of assaulting people and trespassing on the United States Capitol on January 6th. Here's what he told Steve Bannon, and I quote, "We got this idea to record the January 6th prisoners who recite the national anthem every night from the D.C. prison. Then we took that to the studio, so we mastered and digitized it." And he said he had nothing to do with it under oath. Mr. Patel has demonstrated a lack of sound judgment by associating with extremist figures like Mr. Peters, who have well-documented histories of racist, anti-Semitic, and conspiratorial statements. But now, somehow, my colleagues on the other side are silent. Mr. Patel clearly lacks the temperament to lead the FBI. Don't take it from me. Read his own words. I wonder if any of my Republican colleagues accepted my invitation to read this book, and I did read it. Government Gangsters. In this book, Mr. Patel published an enemies list of 60 people whom he calls, quote, members of the deep state, whatever the hell that is, and accuses of being, quote, corrupt actors of the first order. This list includes many distinguished public servants, both Democrats and Republicans alike. What they share in common is the misfortune of having crossed paths with Patel. There's one of them I'm going to highlight, and many of the people on the panel know him, Bob Mueller. Bob Mueller is an extraordinary man. Yes, he's a Republican. Yes, I voted for him to be director of the FBI. He finished his college career and enlisted in the Marine Corps to serve in Vietnam. He received a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star for his combat duty. Came back, worked as a prosecutor, worked his way up in the Department of Justice, and became the director of the FBI. He took over just days after 9/11. I worked with him for years. I respect him completely, and we all should respect him, if for nothing else, his service to our country in combat in Vietnam. And now he is on the enemies list of Kash Patel. Mr. Patel gives no quarters when he disagrees with someone. He's called Democrats, quote, vindictive, evil, and vicious. And then there is his social media posts repeatedly attacking Republican senators for not voting right and not following MAGA orthodoxy. During the previous administration, my Republican colleagues were outraged by Biden judicial nominees' social media posts, and they deemed poetry written by a nominee in college 30 years ago as disqualifying him to serve on the bench because it showed, quote, Marxist ideology. 30 years ago, wrote a poem. Be careful. Where is the outrage now for Mr. Patel, who has launched disgusting attacks on everyone from Elon Musk to LeBron James? Mr. Patel has also displayed a startling disdain for the agency he's been nominated to lead. He wants to, quote, shut down the FBI, Hoover Building on day one, reopen it the next day as a museum of the deep state, quote, unquote. He falsely claimed that the FBI was planning January 6th for a year before it happened. His conspiratorial theories just keep out in his book and otherwise. He can't stop. And he's been clear about what he wants to do with the FBI's vast surveillance and investigative powers, saying, quote, "We're going to come after the people in the media." Mr. Patel has been open about his plans to dismantle the FBI and seek retribution, and he's already begun that mission as a private citizen, targeting senior FBI officials. Consider for a moment, if he is successful in this nomination, his first meeting of the head of the as head of the FBI with the men and women who are sworn to uphold the law and serve at his direction. Think about the morale in that room in light of what's going on. Mr. Patel's directives have already thrown the Bureau into chaos. Senior executives who collectively have hundreds of years of experience have been forced out. Thousands of line agents across the country are living in fear of losing their jobs simply because they did the job they were assigned to do. How does any of this make America safer? The American people need an FBI director focused on keeping the public safe from terrorism, drug trafficking, and violent crime, not petty personal grievances. I yield.
Thank you.